You know, in the history of sports, every so often an athlete comes along who doesn't just play the game, they completely change it. Today, we're talking about one of tennis's most iconic and, honestly, most mysterious figures. A guy who ruled the court with a fiery game and an impossibly cool demeanor. The one and only Bjorn Borg.
Right from the start, he got this nickname, the Iceman. And man, was it perfect. It didn't matter if it was match point at Wimbledon or a first-round warm-up. His expression just never changed. But here's the crazy part. That icy calm on the outside was hiding a game that was pure fire, a game that would revolutionize the sport.
So let's talk about just how dominant he was. It's one thing to hear about a legend, but the numbers are just staggering. This wasn't just a great run. It was a full-blown era of supremacy. Okay, where do you start with a tennis icon? You start with the Grand Slams, of course. Borg racked up 11 of them in an era that was absolutely packed with talent. That number alone makes him an all-time great. But it's where he won them that really tells the story. First up, let's go to the brutal red clay of Roland Garros in Paris. He won 6 French Open titles. I mean, this wasn't just winning matches, this was absolute mastery. His whole style of play, which we're going to get into, made him practically a god on that surface.
And then, and this is what's so incredible, he goes from dominating the slowest surface in tennis to conquering the fastest, the grass of Wimbledon. He won it 5 times in a row. From 1976 to 1980, he was the first guy in the open era to ever do that. Just think about it. It's like solving the 2 most difficult puzzles in the sport, back to back for half a decade.
See, it wasn't just that he was winning, it was how he was winning. Borg was a true revolutionary. He stepped onto the scene and just ripped up the old playbook for what a champion was supposed to be. His impact was huge, both on and off the court. In the game itself, he basically pioneered the powerful baseline game we see so much of today. He used this wicked, heavy topspin that just tortured his opponents. The ball would kick up so high and fast off the court, pinning guys way behind the baseline. And then there was the look. The headband, the long flowing hair. He created the iconic look of 70s tennis and made the sport just unbelievably cool. Now, every great hero needs a great villain, or at least a great rival, right? And Borg's story is no different. This brings us to the absolute peak of his career, a rivalry that had the whole world watching, and then an exit that absolutely nobody saw coming. You couldn't have written a better script. It was literally ice versus fire. You had Borg, the Iceman, calm, composed, the king of the baseline, and then you had John McEnroe, the super brat, this fiery, explosive artist up at the net. They were total opposites, and their battles, especially that legendary 1980 Wimbledon final, were just epic. It was the reigning king holding off the challenger who was clawing for the crown.
And then, right at the height of all of this, at the absolute peak of his fame and his power, comes the weirdest part of his story. You have to ask yourself this question, one that almost no athlete ever has to think about. What do you do when you've already conquered the entire world, and you haven't even hit 27?
26. That's the age she hung it up. Let that sink in. Not because of an injury, but just because he was burned out. The fire was gone. The tennis world was just in shock. The undisputed king of the sport just vanished into thin air. His career was like a flash of lightning, incredibly bright, but incredibly short. But his shadow, it's incredibly long. And that shocking departure is a huge part of his legacy. It's why, all these decades later, the Iceman still matters so much to the sport. So what's the final verdict on his legacy? Well, he totally redefined the modern game. His playing style is the blueprint for so many pros today. With 64 titles, he became one of the first truly global rock star athletes. We're talking fans mobbing him everywhere. That rivalry with McEnroe? It set the gold standard for sports drama. But maybe the most powerful piece of his legacy is that by walking away so early, he created this untouchable myth, a legend defined as much by what could have been as by what actually was. And really, that's what we're left with. It's the ultimate question about his career. He wasn't just a champion who faded away. He was a phenomenon who decided to press pause. And in doing that, he didn't just cement his place in history for the titles he won, but for the incredible mystery he left behind.